it all happened. I was doing stand-up comedy. Friends of mine started this murder mystery company, like the audience participation deal, where some of the scenes are scripted and some of them are improv, where you interact with the audience. And Vince happened to come to one of the shows, and I recognized him immediately and kind of played to him just to have some fun. And I had him cracking up the whole night. I know that he really enjoyed himself. And, part of me was like, oh, I should go introduce myself. How great would it be to work for Vince? And nothing really happened in the introduction. He told me great show and all that, but he was not standoffish, but a little bit short. He just said great show, and I moved on. I'm not one of those pain in the neck kind of guys. But it did register with him because that was a Saturday night, and that Monday, WWF contacted the producers of that show. How do we get in touch with the guy that played Jameson? And they had me come in. They were looking for somebody who could really hold their own improv-wise with Bobby, because they were looking for a co-host of the Bobby Heenan show. And they had me come in character. They told me, don't break character with Bobby. Play it like we want Bobby to think you really are this guy. And came in, and we just, it took him a while to realize that I was just putting him on. And but it worked out great. We had some great exchanges, and they offered me a contract that day. And next thing I know, we're shooting the Bobby Heenan show. So that's how it all kind of got started.
And I definitely do want to obviously talk about Bobby Heenan and the Bobby Heenan show, but what was it like with Vince? Because everyone has their own kind of idea, or they say what Vince is or what Vince is all about. What was your kind of impression of Vince McMahon?
Vince, like, I witnessed some stuff. I know that people run hot and cold on Vince. For me, the guy was nothing but genuine and very he just really he just thought I was the funniest thing going, and treated me as such. He was very generous with me. He I know was getting some negative feedback from some of his cronies, his right-hand men, some of the old school wrestling guys, where, this character doesn't really fit wrestling. But he was very defensive of me and said, nah, he always had something for me to do. So as much as I know there are people out there that, and I witnessed some of it where he just was, a little hard on people. For me, he was a great guy. He was, like I said, just really generous, and nothing bad to say about him as far as the treatment of me goes.
So when you look at the Jameson character, the gimmick, the creation, if you will, so basically that is all you. That's not really Vince or Vince's input. That is you, the character. You created it, and you're the one who basically, is the gimmick.
Yeah, I mean, we wrote that character for this murder mystery. I actually was one of the co-writers, but never envisioned me playing that part. I just wasn't that type. I was most of my acting work came as like a mafia or like a Spanish gang leader. It was I was a tough guy. I was in really good shape, and with being a guy born and raised in New York, I had that edge to me. But how Jameson came about, I have no idea. We wrote the show. There was the part that we wrote for me had to be cut, and the only character that still was not cast was Jameson. And they said, well, you're Jameson. And I said, I can't, we need an actor. We need somebody who can come in here and really pull this guy off. And they said, just come to rehearsal. And I did it. I grabbed a pair of glasses. I crossed my eyes. And next thing I know, I was Jameson. And he was the hit of the show. My strength is improvisation, and that really helped me in these kind of shows. So, it was easy for me to stand out when these shows were going on. I write up in the local papers. We were on Fox. Fox had this, at the time, this is the late 80s, these improvisation shows were big. They started with Tony and Tina's Wedding. That was actually a Broadway show, and they had this contest for the best murder mystery company in New York, and we won, and we did it on Fox 5, and the character really grew out of that, and then Vince stepped in, and pretty much how everything happened.
So you're basically there. Vince loves you. You're going to be on the Bobby Heenan Show, basically the first guest, if you will, of the Bobby Heenan Show. Lord Alfred Hayes gives you a great introduction. I believe he said something about NASA rocket scientists, or something about LaGuardia Airport. I mean, there were so many different stories to it. Were you told basically what was going to happen as you go out there, or they just kind of threw you out there?
Nothing. No, we weren't told anything. It was great. It was we didn't even know who the guests were. So it was like totally, fly by the seat of your pants kind of thing. And as much as Bobby and I were adversaries on camera, off camera, he was very supportive. He was very appreciative of what I brought to the show and what I gave him to play off of. And it was a totally improvisational show. And I wish it went on longer. They evidently USA, the USA Network, absolutely hated the show. And there was, I heard that WWF never told USA that they were making that the last half hour prime time. The ratings were great, but they just pulled the plug after 4 episodes. And that's how I wound up on primetime in the audience. Was Vince was like, we got to keep you. We got to keep you. Just go sit there. We'll bring you into the show. And that's how that developed.